Дякую, що ви прийшли. У нас небагато є. Ура! Як завжди це буває, щось цікаве, ми зустрічаємо дуже багато різних людей, і це стається випадково. І потім виявляється, що вони дуже класні і роблять класні проекти. І так ми зустрілися в щось цікаве недавно з Лялею Лісовською. І виявилося, що вона мало того, що дуже комунікабельна, але також вона художник і займається дуже цікавими проектами. І сьогодні вона розкаже про них нам більше. So,
thank you.
You can begin.
Okay, so hi, thanks for coming tonight. Tonight I want to talk about DIY art management and just show you a little bit of my own work that I did in England and in the United States and in Ukraine.
Дуже дякую, що ви прийшли сьогодні. І сьогодні я хотіла би поговорити з вами про мистецтво DIY і обсудити трохи роботи, які я роблю
In America, England and UK.
в Сполучених Штатах, в Великобританії, тут.
Great. Earlier I screened a 14-minute long mishmash of video that we actually put together at this cinema called the Exploding Cinema.
Щойно я показала 14-хвилинне відео, скомпоноване з різних відзнятих моментів, які ми, власне, зробили на цьому cinema-клубі.
Who doesn't understand English? Just to...
Yeah.
That guy.
You don't understand English?
Okay.
And you? Okay. So, maybe, would it be possible, maybe there's only 3 people who don't understand English.
Yeah, I
maybe
could
you could just translate for them and then we can move faster, yeah?
Okay.
Is that okay for you guys, if I speak in English? Okay, so this show started in 1991 and we found an empty building in London. And we were filmmakers, artists, musicians, and we had nowhere to show our films. Our films were kind of strange, so nobody really wanted them. They thought they were crap, so we thought, well, we'll just set up our own film shows and show whatever we make, we will show. So completely uncensored. And at first we called it the Cinema Cafe. Well, first we called it the Regal Cinema. This is the first ever documented poster of our film shows. This is the Cinema Cafe because we decided to sell, am I going too fast?
No, it's okay.
Decided to sell crepes and beer, and so we called it the cafe. And we showed films while people were eating and drinking. And this was the building that we occupied in 1991. It was called the Cool Tan Factory. And this was because it actually made, like 20 years before that, it made suntan lotion called Cool Tan. And this is one of the programs that I made at this show, what became actually this Exploding Cinema. So, that's the beginning, Exploding Cinema. So, it's still going today, and it's a good example of how, with absolutely no money and no resources, hardly any resources, and yet a bunch of people making artwork or films, we managed to create something that for people to enjoy, and we got to see our own work, and we got to see other people's work, and it was a thriving, exciting place to be in. We showed films every 2 weeks, and it's still going today. So, I don't know, 20 years or so it's been going on. So this is in London, and after this I decided to move to the southwest of England. Well, now it's back. And I decided to start working in the community and working in the community as an artist, which I started to do at the Exploding Cinema, but this time I decided that I can do this as a business, one way, and then 2 as a volunteer, and then also hopefully as an activist. So that was 3 ways that I was actually using what I had, which was to make interesting things for people to look at, to listen to. And also I found that I really enjoyed teaching children, teaching adults, whatever I knew about making stuff. So I could do photography, I could do animation, I could make paper. We did murals because I partnered with a painter, and so he would do murals with people. And also, of course, I helped making people make experimental films. So also we did some printmaking. We would print onto clothes, t-shirts, and we worked with senior citizens, we worked with children, and we worked with teenagers, sometimes in clubs. And we did this because we enjoyed working in the community. So, and now I'm going to restart my computer because it's crashed. But I'm going to carry on talking. So, the types of art management, there are many different types of ways in which to create projects where you can be creative, you can be an artist, you can work by yourself, and you can work in groups, you can be a volunteer, you can be paid, and also you can be employed. So I think I've practically done all of those things. My favorite is working in a group, because you never know what's going to happen. It's like unpredictable, which is really exciting. I started working in the community when I had a job as what we called a play leader. So I worked with children, and it was a club, like a clubhouse, and there was no space to make art. It was just, you know, a lot of stuff hanging around, and kids like sport a lot, so a lot of sport things like, you know, table tennis and things. So I decided to turn the kitchen into a dark room, and got the kids to take photos of themselves, and then I showed them how to develop their own film and to print their own photographs, and also to do experimental films. Let's see. Let me see. No? He doesn't want to do anything. No! Okay, we'll just carry on. So, for me, it was about when we're kind of at a loose end and thinking, well, what do I do next? I think for me, there would be times in my life when, as an artist, I had no work. I had no money, I had no work, I had a lot of energy, I knew some people. Sometimes I would move to a new area, and I could see a lot of potential projects that could happen. So for me, the first point, the first thing that I would do is I would ask questions. So I would, so for instance, with the Exploding Cinema, we were a group of people who made films, but we didn't really know what we wanted. We were unemployed artists, in a way. So we said, well, what do we want? We want to show our films. And what do we have to do this? Well, one person had a projector, another person had a table, and I had a sheet, you know, just like that you sleep with. And we thought, okay, we can have a film show. That's it, we can do it. And so then we found the building, and we started the film show inside the building. So, so also the next thing to do is to see what is around you, and to see what's happening around you, so you can see, like, okay, there are kids who are like destroying and vandalizing things in the street, you know, outside, or you know, they're hanging around and they're making trouble. What do we do? You know, should we create something that will actually turn their attention to something more productive in their community, so that possibly the situation we have right now, I have to talk about this, which is in Yuri's park in Lviv right now. They are destroying the trees. They're going to cut down half of the park. And so this is directly going to affect people in that area, in that they will have only half a park and a great big road with cars going right through the park. So these are needs that we can just open our eyes and we can look to see what's happening around us. And we can apply our own talents and our own skills to what is needed in the community. For me, this is what art management is. It's not getting a job to work as an artist and to make pretty pictures. That's not what it is for me. Maybe it is for someone else, and thank goodness we have people that make gorgeous paintings and beautiful things, because we can't live without that. But for me, there is so much need in the world around us, in our everyday life, that as artists or as PR people, whatever we do, there is always a need, and we can put you know, our efforts to good use. Let me see if I can get this working again. I got paid for like 2 months, my own wage that I created out of nothing, and so for me it was very successful. I was able to realize that even though there's no opportunities, there's nobody offering me a job, I can create a job for myself. So it's stuck again. Okay. And then I decided to go to art college, because at this point I did not have a degree, and I felt that I needed to explore the deeper recesses of my creativity, and I got into performance art. And so I went to the school in San Francisco, and they sent us to NASA, the National Space Agency, and we were the only artists that were ever allowed to go to NASA and to make art at NASA on this special aircraft that created no gravity. So you could float, and you were floating inside this airplane, and we were told that we could only do science, but if you wanted to do art, then you could do it quietly. So I did some art as well on this aircraft, and I think I was one of 7 people have done this at NASA right now, so maybe in the future. And then, so I continued this research, and I created an organization called Zero Gravity Arts Consortium, and we also felt that the artists never got the opportunity to work in the space sciences. So we found that we could go to NASA Ames, and we made workshops, we did research, we got all the artists together for a workshop to decide, okay, what do we need to do as artists in space? And I left the organization, but it continues on, and they do more workshops every year. They have parties and some art projects, that type of thing. So this was another type of advocacy, where you have organizations with technologies, but these technologies are not accessed by artists. So we found a way to access the technologies. So in a way, this is another form of art management, because as an artist, you can again look around and see what is actually you can use as an artist, not just your own materials, but you can see new things that can be discovered. And for me, it's like, it was kind of the ultimate experience, actually being on an airplane that was only accessed by scientists before they let our art school in. And so it was kind of like a miracle, like a dream come true. Like, oh my God, they let artists onto this aircraft. So to me, it was like, I can do anything. That's it, I can do anything. I felt, you know, it was quite an eye-opener. I learned a lot by going there to the Johnson Space Center. And then what happened was, I'm sort of telling you my life story, I guess, in terms of where I'm trying to remember the projects that without the photographs, where art management came into play with my work. So after this, I actually started going to Ukraine, and while I was in Ukraine, my whole life changed, and I started a project, a personal project, which was called How to Be a Real Ukrainian Girl. I did video diaries of every single trip I came to Ukraine, and I started going out into the villages, and I started talking to the people in the villages, and I realized, wow, I can do work out here. This would be pretty good, you know. I can make art, I can work in the schools. And I spent one day with a school, and I got as many cameras as I could find and gave them to the children, and they were like so happy that they didn't have to do classes, and they were just running around the school taking photographs and doing selfies and, you know, things like that. And that was before we had, like, you know, people really got into the photo phones. And so I think this is somewhere that I want to explore further, although then the revolution, then Euromaidan happened, and so for me this was the most important thing that was going on in the world, and I was there. And for me, the most important thing during Maidan was to actually report the news in English. So there I was, in the middle of a country that I hardly spoke the language, in the middle of this very aggressive, scary situation. And the only thing I felt that I could do was to try to find out what was going on and write it in English. So I did that, and I organized a number of events called the World Maidan Forum. I got a table in the Prospilka for international journalists, and we gathered together some translators to start translating the news from Ukrainian into English and into other languages also. And it developed on, and it's now Euromaidan Press and Euromaidan PR, and it's at the moment one of the few kind of outlets for English news about Ukraine. So for me, it's the most important thing. The information war is the most important thing, totally. It's very hard without my photographs, I must say.
Okay, but we have computers, so we can have photos, we can transfer.